Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to this week's episode of the Create Your Happy podcast. I am so thrilled to have this conversation today. We barely started chatting before this and we knew we had to hit record right away. Welcome to the show. I have today with me Hayley Freija Wilson. And what got us talking was my questioning how she'd like to be introduced. And she goes by intuition coach, but it set us on a conversation about labels and who we truly are without all of these labels. So first of all, welcome to the show, Hayley. I'm so glad that you are here. And I would love for you, before we dive fully into that conversation, just give us a little bit about who you are, maybe a little bit of your story of how you got to where you are. And then we'll dive into this topic amongst a couple others that we have in mind to share today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. I'm a big fan of yours. Your social media is so interesting and enlightening and inspiring. And I love the yours. Thank you. And I love the conversations that you start with everyone online. And so I really appreciate that. And so, yeah, I'm really honored to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, my story is a little bit convoluted. I'm one of these people that just knew that she was just a bit different. Do you know what I mean? Like when we were kids, I just saw things in a really different way. There's no other way to explain it. And if you're like me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We're just like, huh? Everyone seems to be fine going about their business. And we're sitting back here going, what?
Yeah.
I was the kid who was having conversations with butterflies and really hearing their conversation back and seeing unicorns and kind of seeing people's ancestors and thinking that everyone was doing that.
Yeah.
Only to realize that wasn't the case.
No.
And for like a lot of particularly women, as we go through puberty, we really learn to shove that down.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Really block it out so that we
a lifetime of squishing it in, right?
Definitely. I mean, and it has to do, I feel like, with puberty. Because we're changing and our bodies are changing, and this is going to be a conversation that we kind of drop into in a bit here. Yeah. And the programming around the shame of being in a woman's body hits us hard.
It sure does.
And I get to look at that from hindsight now, and it's so clear when I look at my life now what was happening. But of course, when you're in it, you're like, it hurts.
Yeah, we're not prepared for that. Like the sex ed at school does not prepare you for that. And so many parents don't feel comfortable having the conversations or they don't know themselves, right? We're all doing the best we can with the resources and understanding we have. So it's not like it's anybody's fault. It's not that there's fault to be assigned at all. It's just that we don't know. And we're working with limited resources to try and figure all this shit out.
Absolutely. And our kids are actually going to be among the most in tune and tapped in of all the generations, I have to say, because, all of us mothers now and parents in general are starting to realize, and we're doing the work, and we're starting to talk really openly about this. I mean, this conversation that we're having right now, right? And I have my conversations with my 6-year-old son very, very open because he remembers his past lives, and he has very big emotions, and I get to hold space for that rather than being like, man up, chill out, stop crying, you're okay, like all of this stuff. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what our children get to do.
There is absolutely a new trajectory because with the amount of access that we have to information in the world, like the information is much less of a barrier, right? The knowledge is much less of a barrier. The barrier now is putting that knowledge and that information into practice so that we actually experience the fruits of that knowledge and information.
And I think that's what started this conversation between you and I. Like, how do we describe what we do? Right? This is
it's so complex.
what we're doing is so complex, it's so multidimensional, and there are so many aspects. We're so multi-passionate as well. To put one label on what we do
So hard.
feels, especially at the beginning, feels really limiting as you kind of go through it. I personally have just let go of the idea that words limit me in any way.
Right.
So what has stuck is intuition coach, because I really help people understand their own energy, their own emotions, and their own superpowers. I mean, we literally have superpowers. Intuition is a superpower. Empathy is a superpower. And our intentions are a superpower. And so that's really what I help people do, is like dive into their own gifts and their own superpowers and then use them for a purpose, like you said. So that's what has stuck. And that's what I have accepted now.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone through a number of iterations, and I just feel like none of the labels, those external labels, really are like the one, right? I've done fitness and health, nutrition coaching. I call myself a happiness coach for a while. I mean, the truth is, I'm a podcast host. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a mother. I'm a partner. Like, I'm so many things. And you're right. Those are just words. Those are just labels. And if we can stop over-identifying ourselves with all of those things that we are thinking we need to be, and just create space to actually just do the being, then we find a lot more freedom. And at the end of the day, when it boils down to it, I did a whole video of all the things that I could label myself as. And at the end of the day, it boils down to I'm love. At the root of it, I'm love. I want all of those other experiences, all of that being, to come from a place of love. And so the labels, one person might not even understand what a happiness coach or a happiness hussy. Now that's the one I've glommed onto because I think it's fucking fun. And it does actually like really kind of convey the message. I'm on here on a mission to spread happiness around the world. And so I think that that was like the funnest way I could express what that mission is in like in a couple of words. But it's not to limit me. It's just to communicate to people, right? To share part of our gifts.
And you just touched on something really important, and that's something that I do. It depends on who I'm actually sitting in front of. I will change my languaging because I'm not attached to intuition coach, or I'm not attached to download doula, or I'm not attached to any of these like high frequency mentor, or you know what I mean? And so a part of me wants to say, if that is you and you're trying to nut yourself in 2 words, because in marketing we're told to do that. Just be simple, which is why intuition coach really helped me, because intuition, everyone knows what that is, and coach, everyone knows what that is. If you start talking about, like, I'm a spiritual guide on your human, blah, 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 like, people are like, I don't really understand. But then having said that, I'm very open because I'm not attached to these words to feeling, right? And here's what empaths are able to do, by the way, is feel that my words are hitting you in the right places, and if they're not, tweaking them in real time. And so that's what really having a connection with humans is all about. And especially as an empath or an intuitive, you get to open your field up and understand that human that's sitting right in front of you, and change the way that you communicate with them so that they understand it. And you can feel it in their body when it's dropped in. Oh, I get what you're talking about. And that's where you really can create a connection. So
absolutely. And yet so many people out there have this superpower and have been told that they're too much, they're too sensitive, they feel too hard, and they shut it down, maybe as early as puberty, maybe earlier when they were just a little child and told to sit down and be quiet, right? And so we go through life thinking these are a problem, a bad thing, a negative, a weakness. It blows my mind, because ultimately I got these 4 teenage boys in this house. I'm really trying to drive home that vulnerability is not weakness. It's actually strength. And that's fucking backwards to look at it as a weakness, because it's actually, the doorway into having the life of your dreams, the experiences that you crave. You have to step vulnerably towards them, or it's not going to happen. You're going to stay in your, I think last episode I said, like, stay in your with your blankie on the couch in your jammies. And that's, and then you can either have excuses or you can take action, right? Like, those are really the 2 choices that you have in any given moment. And so, yeah, you absolutely can. It's a valid choice. stay on the couch, enjoy your jammies, enjoy your blankie. But if you secretly want something else, you have to do the thing to go get it. And you know what? That intuition is actually so hugely important and informational to move you towards those things that you want to experience. It's like I call it like an inner barometer. I know lots of people say like an inner compass or your inner GPS. There's all kinds of ways of saying it. And see, this is part of our talent. We can say this in so many ways that hopefully one of those things will make sense to whoever is listening. Someone needed to hear it as inner GPS, right?
Yeah.
But when we can really get in touch with those emotions and not look at them as a bad thing, we can move forward.
Yeah, and again, you touched on this idea of your intuition being a source of information. My number one core value is information.
Yeah.
And that is very clear when I look at my life, trying to understand my differentness. I studied genetic engineering to try and understand this species that I find myself in that I just did not understand. So I went to study genetic engineering to see if I could understand them at a molecular level.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Like, I'm no scientist, but I think it's really cool. So I would love for you to share any big aha moments that you got. I'm sure you had a lot, but any that really personally resonated for you, because there's got to be.
Yes. For me, it was when I had the whole picture, though. So genetic engineering was a little bit, and then I studied quantum physics, and I studied neurolinguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, philosophy. And then, when I kind of put all of that together and I got the complete picture, my entire reality came into focus for the first time in a long time. And that's why, I could just label myself as a teacher because that is what I do. And that's why I help people really tune into their intuition, because information is everything. Yeah. Information is key to understanding self. And when you understand self, the peace that comes is like, hallelujah. And again, like when you stop judging yourself for being too much, and the amount of times I've been told that I'm too much. If anyone else out there is listening, my loves, you are too much. Be too much. Because the human race doesn't evolve by not being too much.
Yeah. Right? It's not the bad thing you've been led to believe, right?
No.
It means that that's not the right person for you. That's actually the information. If someone says you're too much, it's really not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of their capacity. So, you can just let that roll on by. It means nothing about you, boo. Just carry on being all of your incredible self.
It's actually a win when someone tells you no, because you can close that portal off.
Yeah.
Right? Because especially as empaths, we tend to keep a lot of portals or energy gates open, right? We like to have a lot of information coming in, and here's the dichotomy of what I'm talking about here, the dichotomy of all that we're doing. We like to have lots of portals open so that we're receiving a lot of information, but that's where people get burned out. They feel like they're sucking in everyone's emotions and they get overwhelmed. And so someone telling us no allows you to turn that tap off and redirect that energy into something else. And that's what we were talking about learning to use your gifts and see them as gifts and then use them for a purpose. When you can close down all of these portals that aren't serving you, reclaim your energy and then hone it into something that you're creating, that's when it becomes a superpower.
I agree with you 100%. If you are rejected by someone, to me, I'm sorry, that is like the easy button. Now I know this is not for me. And that's okay, because if you start to realize that not everything is going to be for you, not every person is the right person to have a space in your inner world, it's like the easy button when someone's like, you know what? It's not you, it's me. Great, cool. Like we can now both carry on and live our best fucking lives. But we as humans, we tend to get so emotionally attached to the outcome and we make it have all of this meaning when it's just information. And so the meaning to all of these thoughts and feeling thoughts and all of the stories and judgments we're assigning to it, that's what's causing us the pain and suffering of being hurt by someone not being our person, right? Mm-hmm. And so if we can learn how to detach all those stories, shut them down, not judge it, don't make it. We're on a quest for meaning, I feel like, so much of the time. We want to make everything mean something. And the truth is some of it doesn't mean much of anything besides from it's just not for you. And when we attach all this meaning, we can really end up hurting ourselves through all the judgment and the meaning, the stories and the criticism. Like, we're adding our usually worst case scenario meanings to it's just not a fit. And so you can see how we get really, really trapped in the suffering and the pain of feeling hurt by all of these things and the weight of our emotions. It's so hard. And it is because we're complex humans and we have all of these things going on and nobody ever taught us how to freaking use them.
Absolutely. And that goes for not just like romantic partners, but friends and family and clients. When a client tells me no, I'm like, sweet, thank you. I really appreciate that. And actually, I was talking to a friend about this, about being ghosted. So I'm single and I'm currently dating.
That's an adventure all on its own, I'm sure.
Ooh, yeah. And ghosting is a thing, okay? And what I realize is that I give someone like a certain amount of time and I feel into that portal. And if they've distanced themselves but they're not willing to like close it down, I'll close it down. Like, I'm not going to keep it open.
Yeah, I think being ghosted is the easy button. And like I said, it's then all of this meaning that we're making that ghosting means so much about us. But ultimately, it's an easy answer. This isn't a fit for one reason or another. And you don't have to waste your time figuring out what that reason is. Most of the time, you can just let it go and move on to the next thing. It's actually creating space for the things that are for you every time there's a connection that is redirected or closed or whatever the case may be. I think that's actually giving you more space to find what is for you. And the better we know ourselves, the more easily we can identify this is for me and this isn't for me, and really easily shut down. Well, this one isn't for me, but let me now put my energy into those things that do feel good, those connections, those people, those experiences.
What it shows me, because it is it's a fucking pandemic in the dating scene right now, especially in the city. Ghosting is just expected. What it shows me is the amount of people pleasing that is going on, the amount of fear and the lack of emotional intelligence. There's a lot going on, but it also shows me, man, I have too much compassion. I have a lot of compassion for the wider community, because there is, how am I saying this? They're inviting me. When I say they, I just mean my intuition. By sending me the people and observing the population, because that's what I do. I'm an observer and I'm a data processor. I mean, and so this is something that I could label myself as. Yeah, I process a lot of data, and the genetic engineering really helped me understand the population data. So all of these little pieces came together. And so now I'm sitting here looking over at the city, processing a lot of data. So I use my empathy, I use my intuition, and I use my scientific method to understand what people need. And that's how I actually sculpt my offerings, by the way. And so all of this is just evidence, right? And so I'm not taking any of this personally. I'm just collecting evidence to see where we're at as a human race, as a culture, as a society, and as a people, to see what's next, what's next for us and what's next for me in particular.
Yeah, I think it's just so fascinating to watch people. And honestly, I have a guilty pleasure for some reality TV, because I just find observing humans in their quote unquote natural habitat, just doing their thing. I just find it fascinating. And not because I enjoy judging them or comparing myself to them. I just, like you, I love to observe. Like, it's like people watching is just so interesting. And I find it equally interesting to watch my own self, to observe my own self and my own thoughts, my own emotions, my own actions out of what I'm doing. I just find it all incredibly fascinating. And so maybe not everyone finds it nearly this fascinating, but I sure do. And by taking this approach, by sort of stepping one zoom out to observe the picture without being so heavily over-identified with it, but without the thoughts becoming me and just observing them, I can create peace at will, right? Like, I can decide, you know what, that's some crazy shit right there. I had a friend actually recently tell me that I told her one thing that changed her entire experience of life. So lucky you all, I'm going to share it with you guys today. And this was just this idea. She asked me, like, how do you go about your day without like being overwhelmed and upset by all of the things that are going on, you know, the politics, the all of the hurting people, all of the traumatic events in the world. And I said that I started to really sort of look at it as though it's a movie, as opposed to putting myself as the main character in the movie, right? It's just that one step back. And I can choose to be the character in the movie if I should decide to at any point in time. I can hop in and, you know, play a role or play a character. And I think in a way we're all kind of doing that all the time when we show up in front of someone. We're playing a bit of a role, maybe unintentionally, you know, not for ill intent, just we are showing up in the way that we're showing up for the people who are around. But we don't have to do that all the time. Sometimes we can just sit and observe and watch it like it's a movie without that attachment to it, right? And so for me, that really shifted things. I'm like, wow, politics are a very, very interesting topic. And it doesn't have to mean anything about me. It doesn't need to take my peace away. It doesn't need to make me feel worried or anxious. I choose to step back and not allow that. I choose peace instead and to simply observe.
I think it's an invitation as well to just check in with self, right? So if something keeps happening, or if a certain type of person keeps, you know, acting in a certain way, right? You get to check in and be like, okay, what is it within me that is attracting that? Or what is it about me that's projecting out? Because this is what actually literally happens. And like you said, we do play roles in different people's in different people's games. I kind of see it as a game or a movie, a script, whatever.
Big sim.
Yeah, we react to the programming that they are projecting out as well. Okay. Yep. And so when you get to just observe the data, and that's how I see it. Oh, this is starting to happen. I wonder what within me. And then I check in with self, right? And like you were saying before, there's so much going on inside of us. Because we are multidimensional beings, okay? It's not just this one interaction that I'm having right now is not the only interaction I'm having in the multiverse. It's just not at all. Okay, not even a bit. There are like the different aspects of self. And so let's take inner child, for example, okay? When you have a too much reaction to something, an overreaction. Have you ever had that where you're like, holy, I went from 0 to nuts in a heartbeat. Like, where did that come from, right? Yeah. It's because there's a different aspect of self who's having an emotional reaction for whatever reason, from trauma or programming, or she just wants to have your attention for some reason. And that's why, again, I come back to this intuition, because the more we get to check in with self using that knowing, that inner knowing, and then what I'll do is I'll say, okay, so for example, I've had similar reactions from boys that I'm dating, okay? All right, so my primary consciousness is projecting and inviting and sending out love and to be cherished and emotional intelligence and connection and communication. This is what primary Hayley wants. There's an aspect of self, though, back there somewhere who wants something else, because if you don't have exactly what you want, it's because there's a part of yourself who doesn't want it. So you get to check in with that part of self, and then you find like, oh, there's a little part of me that's fearing having this deep, intimate connection with someone because she's scared of getting hurt. And then you get to soothe that part of yourself. Okay. And then, right. And then
so nice.
Integrate that, and then see what data comes in after that. It's really,
because then you're whole, right? Then you're coming in whole. You're not just discounting inner version of Hayley that's maybe feeling like, oh God, I might get hurt. I'm being vulnerable, and I know I want to be vulnerable to get what I want, but I might get hurt. And so instead of being like, go away, you're like, it's okay, bring it in. We're going to do this shit together, right? It's like a whole ass human showing up to do the things instead of a segmented thing. And I was thinking about this earlier. This is sort of like when we put those parts aside, when we brush them under the rug, when we try and turn them off or avoid those parts because we're uncomfortable with them, it's an illusion. We create an illusion of separation within ourselves that we don't want to be that. And so we see it as separate from ourselves, but the truth is integrating that with compassion, with this compassionate inquiry and love for yourself. You can integrate all of those parts. And now you're operating as a whole human. Now you're at capacity.
it's that easy as well, by the way.
Yeah.
As you get into it, it doesn't have to, like, healing doesn't have to be this like gut
Drudgery.
wrenching, like, dark night of the soul after dark night of the soul. No, it's just about, and it's about using your superpowers quicker and quicker and quicker to be like, oh, okay, so a part of me has been triggered. Let's explore that. Let's bring her out and just have a conversation with her. And honestly, with 99.9% of the times I do it with myself and my clients, all it takes is looking at that aspect of self and being like, hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
And that honestly, that aspect will be like, huh? Oh, thank you. I feel better now, and integrate.
Right? It can really be like, I know that when you're on the other side of this, you don't feel like it's going to be easy at all. You think it's impossible. You think that you don't even think that's you, right? Because you have this illusion that it's separate from you. And so it seems kind of crazy to think about reintegrating that part because you don't think it's you and you don't want it here, right? You really you're like, that doesn't sound good. I don't want that. I was avoiding that for a reason. But the truth is it's part of you and you are whole and you can operate much better when you bring in all parts of you because there's wisdom in that part too.
Oh, and we've been programmed to not identify with that self, the too much self, the one who's crying. Be quiet, cheer up, settle down, chill out. We get told all of these things, and so we are literally programmed to stuff them down and separate them, even more so because that's what we're taught. And that's one of the reasons. So when I first came in as an intuition coach, I'm just going to use this now.
Yeah. I love me some air quotes.
Yeah. The first thing that I actually started to talk about was body image, because that was really the first time I saw programming for what it was, right? When I looked at, why do I hate my body so much? Okay, and I really started to listen to the thoughts and I started to check in with those different aspects of self. I saw all of these beaten down and really guilty and obsessed parts of myself about being skinny and not being valid and not being good enough and not being worthy and like being fat and all of that, all of this stuff I was saying to myself. And that was really the first time I was able to do what we were talking about and detach myself from that, observe it. And I was like, oh my God, it's not real.
It's not.
It's
a story. It's a program. It's conditioning. It's an illusion.
Yeah, absolutely.
We bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And I would say the same thing. I actually, my listeners will maybe know that I used to be, not that I used to be, like, it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm not that anymore. But I started as a health coach. So fitness and nutrition coaching was where I started too. And because I found so many people were so, desperate in an attempt to change their body. Right. And ultimately, it wasn't about changing the body. They were trying to change their body to fit this narrative. But what if we just change the narrative instead and love our body? And that is that's the easy button. Like, we don't have to do all this efforting and do all this difficult stuff. And the truth is, if you take that other route, it will probably result in your body coming into better alignment, because when you feel better, you do better. You take better action. You take loving care of your body. And listen, we got one shot at this meat suit. Like, we got to take care of it. And we can't expect it to be like performing for us if we're not treating it with the love and care and treatment that it deserves.
Absolutely. And of course, me being wildly polar, I went from being so shy. Like, when I was a teenager, I would wear sweaters wrapped around my waist in the summer in Australia. Like, it was plus 45 Celsius. It's hot.
That's commitment to the cover up.
Sure. The shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
The level of shame. And so when I was able to see the program for what it was, I had so much compassion for self. And it was like if I saw a beautiful, because like I look back now and I was like this stunning like woman, right? If she came to me now and said like, oh my God, I hate my body, no, I would take her head in my hands and say, you are so beautiful. And I'm so sorry that, you've bought into this idea, blah, 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 blah. I'd give her compassion, right? So I did that for myself. And now I am, one of the things that I'm most known for is getting naked outside at really wild and random places. And I am no skinny mini, okay? I got beautiful curves and I got beautiful bum and hips and
gorgeous. And I've seen that ass a couple times run across my social media. I'm here for it. You're a human. You're a real human. And I think everybody would look at this, and I've had people even say similar things to me when they look at me like, I wish I could be that confident. Sister, you can be. You can be. There is no doubt in my mind that no matter what's going on in your mind, whatever the stories have been, whatever the narratives you've bought into until now, they don't have to move forward with you. When you choose to step back and start looking at from the observer role and realize, the funny thing is we would never talk to our friends like this. We wouldn't have any if we did, right? They'd be like, this is not a friendship. If we ever talk to our friends the way that we very often do talk to ourselves, that inner dialogue. And so remembering, first of all, that inner dialogue is not us, right? We are observing it. And so therefore we can choose, and we have to become curious. Are we going to choose to accept that for face value and just take that on board? Or are we going to take a moment and question, where did it come from? Is it serving me? Is this how I really want to feel? Because we can choose the feeling that we have, and the thoughts can then, then with that intuition, I want to feel good. I want to feel at peace. I want to feel in love with my body. I want to feel confident. Okay, well, what are the actions? What are the things that you're going to want to think about and do and be so that you can feel that way? It's not about like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm going to go to CrossFit 6 days a week, and I'm going to only eat carrots until, July, and hopefully, but the problem is that you come along with that body. So if your body is, maybe you're losing the weight and you're doing all these extreme things, you lose the weight, you realize you're still there.
When this permeates every facet of our life, like relationships, like romantic relationships, relationships with self and family, and the relationship you have with money, your career, finances, your health, your mental health, all of it from this one point of view. And again, this is why I kind of keep coming back to intuition coach, because honestly, it's the key in this brain to all of it. Everything that we want just comes from observing and trusting and really checking in with your energy, your different aspects of self and what they want and how they're feeling. So
and my message and the theme for this whole season of the podcast is building that strong foundational relationship with yourself, because that is the foundation that is going to impact your relationships with all of those things you mentioned, with your body, with your money, with your other people, with your boss, with your kids, with the world at large, your relationship with how you deal with interactions between media or just external circumstances. It all boils down to you. There's nothing that's not going through your filter. And guess what? You can change your filter. So that is a huge win. But most people kind of go around on autopilot, not even realizing that they can change that filter. They can change that lens. They can shift. They can step out of those thoughts, stop over-identifying with the thoughts, and choose which ones actually give them the experience they want to have.
And again, we're not taught this.
No.
Again, like we circled back to the beginning of the conversation, like the work that we're doing now on ourselves is breaking those generational curses, and we're going to see the next generations become more and more in tune and tapped and emotionally intelligent. And so, like, praise all of us, all parents right now doing the work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for our future generation, for the future of the planet, the future of humanity. We have to come together on this and support each other and cheer each other on, I think. And it starts by learning to love ourselves. Ultimately, that is at the root of it. It's sort of a process. It can be very simple and very quick, but most of us are a little bit more logical and linear than that, because that's the world we live in. We experience it very logically, very linearly. It's not really that. Again, that's kind of an illusion as well. So we could have instant shift and have all of these things change, but we can also go through a sort of more gentle process. It just involves more awareness, right? And then getting to really know ourselves so that we know what is and isn't for us. And then from there, we can create, I'll say, boundaries or just standards for the way that we choose to live, so that we know, when I act this way, I feel good. When I act this way, I don't feel good. And then we start to choose the feeling good, and then the actions that follow that. And that's how we can find our freedom. And we do have to be vulnerable. That can be scary when you're just on autopilot doing your thing without really, just living the linear life, one step after another, probably getting up, going to work, doing the thing, coming home exhausted, crashing on the couch, watching some TV, going to bed, doing it again. There's not a lot of time for awareness and self-discovery and self-reflection. So how do you suggest people navigate that if they're out there working and doing the thing where there's literally not a lot of mental space left?
Absolutely. What I find who are attracted to me particularly are those that, like I did very, very, very young, at a young age, like, is this it?
Yeah.
Is this, No, like, yes, like we've been programmed and we have been educated to see that, we are living a linear reality, okay? But then inside we know that that's fucking not true. There's a distortion between the outside reality and the internal reality. And so if that's you, please do reach out to me, because honestly, the first thing that most people say when they sit down in front of me is, "You're going to think I'm crazy, but..." And then I'm like, and I've worked with thousands of people, and I'm like, try me.
Let's see if you can actually surprise me.
And then they'll tell me their story, and I'll be like, then what happened? And they're like, what, you believe me? You don't think that I'm crazy? You don't think that I'm, you're not going to gaslight me? And I'm like, no, I completely understand. And here's what's actually happening. And I explain it to them and give them the information, and they you can watch them change. What I'm feeling isn't nuts. What I'm feeling isn't not real. It's real. And the transformation that can occur just from having another human see you, right? Like I do to my inner child. I see you. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I see you. I believe you. I can help you understand yourself. So honestly, you don't have to do it by yourself, I think, is the number one key.
Yeah.
If you're feeling this dichotomy of duality, which is the third dimension in which we live in, by the way, right? Polarity, it is what it is. It's thoughts versus reality, right?
Yeah.
If you're feeling the struggle between this, reach out and hire skilled help.
Yeah, find some support, because it's interesting, our brains work in a way that are meant to protect us. So we actually have this sort of built-in, safety mechanism, which might actually be blocking us from seeing that awareness that would actually help us move forward. And that's why having an outside, perspective from someone who has been there, done that, can hold that space without judgment, can observe from a neutral observer position, can really lend you that love and acceptance that you've been craving, so that you can learn how to create it for yourself.
Exactly. What about, here's your bowl, and I really see all of us as tangled up bowls of genius.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the human body, the human mind, and the human experience is genius.
It's incredible. That's incredible. Cool. Like, we're literally walking miracles, and it is absolutely fucking magical. Like, if anybody can even just observe this, not just me, but like this for themselves. And if you're not watching this and you're listening, you've probably watched the video to catch all of the dramatic flair I was using there. But if you're not like in awe of the magnificence of the fact that your heart is beating all on its own, that the oxygen you're taking in and taking out is all happening on its own, that your brain is thinking literally all on its own.
And I could tell you and teach you things about genetic engineering that would blow your motherfucking mind. The complexity of what's going on without our conscious knowledge.
It's incredible.
It would blow you away. And so I don't remember how we quite got onto that topic.
I don't know, but it was incredible. It
was amazing.
Yeah.
But my advice is that the getting up and the going to the gym and the going to the work and the eating and the sleeping and the watching TV is it. there's no this reality and then, oh, I'm going to go and do my intuition work, and then, oh, I'm going to do my spirituality work. It's all of it all the time.
Yeah.
And honestly, my biggest kind of tip for someone is just to start being aware of where your mind is. Where is your heart? Like, what are you actually thinking about? And where are you? I ask people all of that all the time. Like, where are you right now? Because you're not here. And then they're like, oh, shit. Yeah, I was actually thinking about once when I tripped over and I dropped my kid on his head and we had to go to the hospital. I'm like, wow.
Wow, you really took a trip to the past.
Yeah, let's bring it back here, right? And so
yeah,
just starting to learn to observe your own thoughts and feelings and like, where are you?
Yeah.
Where are you right now?
There's a lot of power, right, in being here in the present moment. We do as humans tend to spend a lot of time in the future and in the past. Mm-hmm. And when we do that, we're missing this present moment right here in front of us. And this is actually the only moment we truly have. We can't change that past. We can't really affect that future by doing anything else than being here right now.
But here's the next layer to that, is that, like we were saying, like, our thoughts and feelings create our reality, our external reality, and we get data given back. So here's the thing. When you're getting data back that you don't actually like, right? Well, what are you actually thinking about and how are you actually feeling? Even though you say, I want to be skinny and you're not getting skinny, okay? How are you, what are you actually thinking about and how are you actually feeling? Because that is what is creating your reality, not what you think you're thinking about.
Yeah. Right?
And so that's the power of this work, right? If you're not getting the results that you want in money, love, body, health, whatever, where are you? Yeah. Because I promise you, the past you that fell over and accidentally hit I don't know why I'm channeling this, hit your baby and she's in the hospital, right? Isn't thinking about getting skinny. I'll tell you that much.
No, right? We're not in the present moment. We're actually just stuck in our minds, and we can't really take action from there because we're stuck in another place.
And it's also, right, it's mind, but also heart. Like, where are you energetically?
Absolutely.
Not just what am I thinking about, but where, and this is, where are you, right? Because we have an energetic body, we have an energetic awareness that we can send off, and we do. And that's why I was talking about the ghosting and the saying no, of like turning off these portals so that we can stop sending. Because what we do is we have our awareness that's whole, and then we send a splinter of that off. We send another splinter that way, down there, down there, down there, down there. And so by someone saying no, I can remove that splinter and bring it back. And then I can use that energy for something else. And so it's a complex system that we're living in, but fuck is it fascinating.
It really is.
The more you get to tune into it and ask yourself these questions, where am I and what do I actually really fucking want? Because again, we get programmed into thinking that we want to be skinny and we want to be rich. Do ya?
Yeah. Those are just outward experiences. How do we really want to feel inside? How do we want to experience whatever? Like, this is what it always boils down to. Someone says they want to lose 20 pounds. Well, why? What is it that you think that 20-pound lighter body will allow you to do? Because that's what you're actually after. Mm-hmm. It's not about how your body looks. It's about what that will enable you to do, to be experience. And so if we can shift into that space of being and experiencing and taking action from that place of where we want to feel, then we're taking the right actions and we're not wasting our energy circling all back around trying to manage all these other thoughts, right? And just embrace all of it. There's a part of us that doesn't want it. Cool. There's a part of us that does want it. Cool. Let's bring it together. Let's focus on what we want to experience, how we're going to be, how we're going to show up when we have this vision of this ideal future version of ourselves. We can bring that right here and now by creating those experiences, by creating that feeling. And we just so often don't know we can, or we're distracted and we just don't do the thing we know we can do.
Well, and then the last kind of piece is that if you're not getting the results that you want, don't judge yourself for it. Right? Don't feel shame. Don't feel like I should. And actually, I see this when people progress through their spiritual journey. They start to know what to do, but not embody it. And that's where the thinking and the feeling get to come into alignment.
Yeah.
I know how to jump timelines because I learned it in quantum physics. Okay, yeah, but are you jumping time? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So don't judge yourself for not getting the results that you want, but rather just get curious about, I wonder why.
Yeah.
And shining a light on that, right? Like, and becoming interested rather than like, shame and judgment. It's curiosity.
And see, I think that's very interesting. And I have mentioned this on a recent podcast episode as well, that this idea that, it's bad to give ourselves love and compassion. And by bad, that I don't like that word. It's not the right word, but like that's somehow lesser than, that's frowned upon, that makes you selfish, and that it might demotivate you, or all of these things. This is just like not the truth, but it's the story that you might have bought, that caring for yourself is selfish, that not beating yourself up, you're not going to have motivation, you're going to become complacent, and the problem's going to get worse. But the truth actually is, and I encourage everyone out there listening to just try this on. If it fits, keep wearing it. If it doesn't fit, that's all right. Maybe it's not the right time and place for you in your journey, and that's totally okay. But try on this idea of loving yourself and giving yourself compassion for your mistakes, because first of all, nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. It's actually part of our evolution. We have to make mistakes, so we're not growing. Like, they're part of the package. And so instead of beating yourself up or trying to guilt or shame yourself or trash talk yourself into doing the thing, that's not actually going to give you the motivation like you think it will, because like I said, that's not true. What will give you the motivation, the momentum, is learning to love and accept yourself. Because when you have all of those pieces, now you're operating as a whole person, and you have so much greater capacity. Not only can you cheerlead yourself to doing all that shit that you were like, well, I don't know if I can do the thing, but you can actually like become your own inner cheerleader and give yourself the validation, the love, acceptance, and all of those things, and propel yourself to go forward and do even bigger, greater things, whatever that is for you. Or, just know that when you feel better, you take better action. You would never see it work by berating someone else and expecting them to show up as a better version. Like,
well, and on an energetic level, right? When part of you wants that wants to go forward, part of you wants to go back, then you just get stuck.
Yeah.
And so if you hold compassion for the part that wants to go backwards and have them integrate in a loving and caring way, and then they're like, oh, forward is the right way, right? And then you go moving forward.
Just bring everybody forward instead of that weight in the back trying to hold you back, that shame, that guilt, that heavy emotions you're trying to leave behind. Instead of trying to like leave them, just bring them along.
And show them. And I work with ego. Ego is one of my, and I know that we're probably running out of time, ego is one of my favorite aspects of self to work with, because ego gets a lot of shame. People try and kill their ego. But what happens, right? What if you get to hold space for your ego, right? And show the ego that what we're manifesting and what we're working towards is in our highest good, right? And you can actually show the ego, and it's like, oh, it comes on board. The ego is a massive tool, huge tool for growth. And so, that's what a lot of resistance people see, and that's why they poo-poo the ego. Is like, it wants me to keep me safe, and it's just blah, blah, blah. No, it's a really smart tool, innovator. Okay, if you can bring it on board and show it and give it a puzzle, it loves a puzzle. Send it out and have it work on a puzzle, like, whoo, like the propulsion that you can get from the ego is massive. So,
that's an amazing share. I would love for you to share with us any offers that you have or programs that you have available, and also how people can get in touch with you. And then we're going to dive into some last tip that I know you've got brewing.
Absolutely. So I run online programs. My foundational course is called Infinite Intuition, which is really a foundations program. Teaches you, just give you information honestly. And I really, as a glossary of terms to fit in the education that's maybe like, a lot of people say that I kind of knew what was going on. And again, it's this like thoughts versus feelings. I give you the language and the education to speak about your experiences from an educated place. And to just understand, and again, bring that ego on board, because once the ego understands, it's no longer resisting, right?
Yeah. Integrated.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then
fuck.
a bunch of tools to work on your mind and your energy field. We do, like inner child and past life and grounding, and we go into the Akashics, and then we do cognitive behavioral therapy and neuro-linguistic programming. It's really a holistic, whole human kind of a program that is designed to open up and strengthen your channel so that you can listen to your intuition and communicate with all of those beings around you that are ready to communicate with you. And so that's one of my, that's my kind of first program. I have another program called Mission Mapping, which is a bit more advanced, and we go astral traveling around the multiverse and checking out yourself living as different beings and receiving big downloads from that. And I have a program launching next month in June. It's called Making Love and Money. And it's all about what we've been talking about, is like observing, especially for empaths, observing your superpowers, learning how to stop sucking in everyone else's negative shit, right? Turning off those portals, coming to a place of wholeness, and then using that gift to get what you want, basically, and I've called it Making Love and Money because that's, it's what I'm making right now. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, right. Yes. Who doesn't want a little more love making and a little bit more money making?
And so, yeah, again, using, and it's all about education and understanding self. So I give you tools. I'm a real how-to person rather than theory, like practical, let's use this as an action. And so it's a project that you get to use over the summer, and it's a real one-of-a-kind, really like cutting-edge experiment, really, on empaths, on to how they can close in, right? Become whole and then open out for a reason. That's what it comes down to. So
beautiful. Yeah. All right. So
any of that, please reach out to my YouTube channel or my Instagram or Facebook, and it's Hayley Freija Wilson across the board on my social medias. So you can always find me.
Cool. We will make sure to have those links in the show notes as well. All right. To wrap up this incredible episode, I would love for you to hit us with your best shot of how we can, maybe a small tip, how can we go out and make a little bit more love and make a little bit more money today?
And just a small thing, hey?
Just a small thing. Just something that, just bite-sized, something that, the listeners can go in and actually apply so that they can move from knowledge to experience.
Absolutely. Honestly, I think we've already touched on this, is where is your energy space? Where's your mind and where is your heart? Where are you right now? And you can check in with yourself. And it's such a simple thing, which is why we were talking about, this person who's busy with their 3D life. Yeah. Set an alarm on your phone when you get up, when you're having breakfast, when you're eating breakfast. Where are you? Because if you're not actually tasting that food, you're not here, right? As you're driving to, where are you? Keep checking in with yourself. And that's how you make more love and money, because you start bringing all of those aspects of self into wholeness, and everyone has the same desires, rather than some people not wanting it and some people wanting it, right? And so honestly, that's the easiest tip. I mean, there's a bazillion tips that I could give, but I think that's the one that wants to come through. Where are you right now? Yeah.
Just staying really curious, right? Really can help us to open up to more awareness, to more information. And then we have the power to decide what we're going to do with that information. So that is an amazing place to start, just being here in the now, because that creates that space for intentionally responding to that information.
100%. And your body is communicating so much information to you right now that the amount of information that's available to you right now can be overwhelming, which is why a lot of it shut us down, but that's a different topic.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot coming at us, but we can create the space to start listening.
Definitely.
I just have really enjoyed this time together. So thank you so much for being here.
what I love about this conversation that it was not linear, and that's right. That's my bag, baby. Multidimensional conversations. And I love that we kind of kept circling back and diving here and there. It was really fun. It was a really fun conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, incredible. I hope that all the listeners found it as intriguing as I did, and that they've got some really good nuggets to take with them. So for everybody out there, I just want to say, I love you. Now let's go do some epic shit, shall we? Mwah! Are you tired of feeling burnt out and overwhelmed by trying to please everyone else? Do you find yourself constantly putting other people's needs ahead of your own, leaving you feeling unfulfilled and resentful? Break free from the cycle of people-pleasing and take back control of your life. Learn how to identify and break free from the patterns of people-pleasing that are holding you back. Learn practical tools and strategies to set healthy boundaries and prioritize your own needs so that you can find a sense of peace and fulfillment in your life. Imagine waking up each day feeling energized and excited about your life. Imagine living life on your own terms. Don't wait any longer to take control of your life and find true happiness. The Path to True Happiness and Authenticity, a masterclass for people pleasers. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.